There's a specific lie that fear tells you about love. And that's it. God loves people, but not you. Not right now. Not till you get it all together. In fact, I think it goes deeper than that. I think at points in time, fear tells you that you can't be loved. Not given what you've done, not given who you are. But 1 John goes right to the point on that one. It answers that lie in 5 words. Perfect love casts out fear. Not after you improve, not after you're worthy. God's love always comes first. I remember a point in my life when I was just overtaken by my fear and anxiety. It was actually at a point in my life where I actually hadn't even realized that I had an issue. Like that, I hadn't really realized that I had some issues with fear and anxiety. And I came to a point where, and I may or may not have brought this up before, but it just came to a point in my life where I just can't, I guess you can only describe it as a panic attack or an anxiety attack or whatever it was. And it seemed like it lasted forever. But in the midst of that, it was like just this, it was definitely the evil one. It was definitely Satan just whispering in my ear, just telling me that I was not worthy, that nobody could love me. And it was in the midst of that where when I was at my deepest of despair, when I was at that moment where I was really not even, like I said, the devil was just whispering. It was like that little devil on my shoulder just saying to me, you're not worthy, Steve. Nobody could love you. Why are you even bothering? The world would be better off without you in it. Everything. It was at the kind of the lowest point. And God came to my lips. It was just, God help me. And it was in those moments of really just praying for God to help me that I did feel his love. And he pulled me out of that. And in a moment, it probably was a period that lasted maybe 10 minutes tops, maybe a little bit longer. But I just remember the peace that I felt when I asked God, and I just really, truly felt his love. And then that's what this week is about. We're in week 9, and it's really all about how God's love casts out fear. A lot of the readings that we're going to go into this week are really focused on that. Really, we're going to go into Romans chapter 5, verse 8. And it's really going to be focused on God loving us as sinners. As a matter of fact, I want to read it. It's a great line, and it's perfect for this week. And again, it's from St. Paul's letter to the Romans. It's chapter 5, verse 8. It says, but God proves his love for us in that while we still were sinners, Christ died for us. I mean, what more do we have to say in that moment? Jesus knew we were sinners. He chose the 12 most unlikely men to be his apostles, and they were all sinners, and he knew that, and he knew what he had to do. He knew that his perfect sign of love, death on the cross, he would have to endure that for us, for sinners, because he loved us. So it's those moments where we're just not feeling worthy. We just really need to remember that Christ died for us, knowing that we were sinners. We weren't worthy. We would never be worthy of that. But yet he still would do it. And he would do it today. I remember a good friend of mine says it to me all the time when we talk about that. And he really just talks about that Christ would have died on the cross just for me. And if he had to do it all over again, he would do it all over again. If that's not perfect love, to me, it dispels everything. I know it doesn't, it doesn't eliminate the fact that we're going to struggle, but it's a reminder. And that's what this week's really all about, is reminding you that just God's perfect love is always going to cast out fear. He just fills that void. In those moments of our deepest fears, when we turn to him and just, like we had a reading a couple weeks ago where Peter's stepping out of the boat, when as long as we had our eyes on him, it was fine. And the moment we saw the storm around it, we just dropped. The other thing to think about too, and one of the core themes of this week that we're going to touch base on, is that God's not keeping score, right? He's not saying, all right, Steve, this is the 10th time this week that you've had an issue with your anxiety and you keep turning to me help. He's not keeping score. He's always going to be there. And he's always going to forgive us. And if we find ourselves at a point where we're sinning, and he's always going to forgive us. That's one of the beauties of the sacrament of reconciliation, is that no matter where we're at, no matter where I am at with sin, and no matter how I'm feeling, his mercy is just never ending. He wants to forgive us as long as I'm sorry for the sins, as long as I have that remorse. He wants to forgive us. The other core theme that we're going to touch on this week is practice of receiving. The weekly practice, it's a simple one sentence, and we want to pray it slowly. And I'm going to read it here for a second. So I'm going to kind of look at my screen so I don't get it wrong, right? So our weekly practice is going to be, Lord, let your love reach the places fear has claimed. Then hold still and receive. So for me, the receiving is actually an area where I'm not going to say I struggle, but it's a point where I struggle with that, asking for that help. And I'm sure there's others out there like myself that fall into that situation where, I'm always quick to give the assistance. I'm always quick to help somebody out. I'm always quick to serve. But it's the receiving part that I have difficulty with. So I think for this week, for me, it's going to be a great practice to pray that prayer, and then to just hold still and allow myself to receive his love, and to allow it to enter into those places where fear is trying to drive it out. So this week, again, we're going to Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we'll be releasing the Lectio Divina episodes. And this week, we're going to, Monday, Romans chapter 5, verse 8. We already read it earlier in this session. I gave you a bit of a preview on that. So our Monday Lectio Divina is going to cover that. And then Wednesday's Lectio Divina is going to be Psalm 103, verses 8 through 13. That's a great one. I think that's one that shows just the Father's love right there. It's going to be a good one. So hopefully you can join us for that one. And then Friday, we're going to close out the week with Romans. It's going to be chapter 8, verses 35 through 39. And that's really focusing on how nothing can separate us from God's love. There's just nothing in this world that can separate us from the Lord's love. And again, the weekly practice, let's make sure you're doing it. For those of you that are following along in the book, you have it, and you'll have it every day this week. So it's a good opportunity to open ourselves up to receive Christ's love in those areas that maybe fear is just gotta hold on. Just invite him in to those places where we're still holding on to our fears, and hopefully we find a way to receive that love and to release it. So yeah, as we're closing, I just want to pose this one question, right? What is a place of fear that you feel that maybe you're holding on to, a place that maybe fear has said is off limits to God's love? I know for me, I continue to struggle today with my fear of driving on the highways. It's something that I've been carrying for about a couple of years now, and it's a struggle for me. I think we're going on maybe year 2.5 now, maybe 3. So I think this week I'm really going to ask and just try to receive it and just see what happens. Again, if there's something that you want to share with us, with the community, feel free to do. You don't have to fully explain it or anything like that, but just if you felt comfortable enough to go ahead and put it in the comments. And if you haven't done so already, please go ahead and subscribe and join us again on Monday. All right. Thank you very much, and God bless.